I've found whenever it blinks twice, makes that clicking, that beeping sound, it's already ready to rock and roll. So I don't know what the key is there. Solving equations in one variable. Okay, you're thinking, are there any other kind? Well, when there's two variables, and you'll get used to those here soon as well. A couple of things that if you read through page 37 especially, a little bit on 38, but bold words. These are the kind of words I'm going to use when I discuss this stuff. So if you don't know what open sentence, solution, root, satisfy an equation means, or maybe you don't know what solution set or equivalent equations means, empty set, identity, constants, formula, you're going to need to know those things. I'm not going to go through and make you define each of those because I feel like those are something you should already know. All right? So we're going to go over just a few different samples here, and they're not going to be the ones in your book like normal. We're going to, do the ones I have for you. And just practice how we're going to solve these. You're going to see problems with a solution, a single solution. You're going to see problems with no solution, and I usually do like a 0 with a line through it, or I write N-O-S-O-L, whatever works for you. You're also going to see a problem that says all real numbers works, and you'll see that as well today. So those are the few different things we're going to be encountering. I've got you guys doing the odds up to and including number 37. So we'll be tackling this rather quickly. Here we go. Starting with example 1, if you wouldn't mind turning to 38. Remember, mine's different, but you can always refer back to the book example. This is mine. Here we go. So it's going to be solve, and it's going to look like this. 3 times 2x plus 5 is equal to -7 times the sum of x and 9. This is where my geekiness really starts to come out. Here is where you have to start making some decisions. Based on the order of operations, can you combine any of the items within the parentheses? No, because they're not the same item. These are variables, that's a constant. This is a variable, that's a constant. But you can distribute the factor 3 over the 2 items within, and the factor -7. Because when a numeral precedes a parentheses, that means multiply. Okay, so we're going to do that. I believe we have 6x plus 15. Those of you that know me know I'm not always perfect. If I do make a dumb arithmetic error, please feel free to tell me. Whoa! Otherwise, later I'll be sitting there scratching my head. Okay, so now we're going to manipulate or maneuver the equation so that you have variable equaling number. In other words, all the variables on one side and any of the constants on the other. So the simplest way to do that is either subtract 6x over to here, and then it eliminates it from over here. Or you can add 7x, and that eliminates it from here. Let's add, because we all like to stay positive in life. By adding 7x, you end up with 13x. Okay? Notice I'm not going to show another layer. I'm just going to follow through and finish it off. We're going to also maneuver our constants to the right. Am I looking at a -78? Yeah. Now I have variable, but I happen to have 13 of them. I don't want to know what 13 x's are. I want to know what 1 is. Divide by 13. Yep. This is an example of a single solution, right? So only -6 works here. It's not all real numbers. It's not no solution. It is only that item works. Okay, that's example 1. Here is example 2. And example 2, if you notice in your book, has 2 samples. And these samples are going to allow us to address a no solution scenario. And example B is going to let us address an all real numbers scenario. So I'm going to go ahead and start with the first one, which is the example A version. And it's going to look like this. 5h minus 2 times the sum of 4 and h equals 5 plus 3 times the sum of 1 and h. Okay? Back to the steps above, can we combine anything? This should stay 4 plus h, not fourth. Sorry, 4 plus h, like fourth. The steps highlighted above, we were not able to combine anything in parentheses, and we're not able to do it here either. But we are able to distribute in the factors. The factor 2 multiplies by the 4 and the h. The factor 3 multiplies by 1 and h. And keep in mind that this 2 is a negative. So negative 2 is what's getting multiplied by 4. And negative 2 is what's getting multiplied by h. Are you guys all good with that one? I'm just going to bring down that 5h because it has to stay with the party anyway. 3 times 1 is still a positive 3. 3 times h is still a positive 3h. Bring down the 5 because it wants to stay in the party. The next thing we can do is collect like terms. Because on the left, we have 2 things that are h's. We have a 5 and a negative 2. The combination of the 5 and the negative 2 results in a 3h, right? The negative 8 has no other friends, so he's going to stay by himself. On the right, do we have any variables that can be combined? No, but we do have constants, 5 and 3. 8 equals, 8 plus 3h. 8 plus 3h. Now we want to get our variables on one side equal to numbers on the other, which involves us maneuvering. I'm going to move my 8 to the right. Most of you already see what I'm going to see here. That canceled out the numbers on the left. And I'm going to move my h's to the right, which results in nothing, on the left. In what universe does 0 equal 16? None. Therefore, the answer is no solution. If you write that, that's fine as well. If you were to ever ask an exchange student, they might tell you to use the word empty set. That's also something you might see, and that's acceptable. All right? Any questions on that one before I go into the items that are all real numbers type of scenarios? All right, so that was A. This was a no solution type of example. Why? Because what I have stated with this equal signs is false. Okay, this is a no solution. When what you have on the left does not equal what you have on the right, it's no solution. Next one, this is my sample B, and it's going to look like this. 2 times the difference of 5t and negative 3 minus t is equal to 3 times the difference of 3t and negative 2. We're going to do all the same work that we've done in the first 2 items that we've done. We're going to see if we can combine. Nope. Nope. Looks like we can distribute here and here. Looks like 10t minus 6 minus t is what you have on the left. And 9t minus 6 on the right. Can we collect like terms anywhere?
Yeah.
The left. Which results in a what? 9t?
Yeah, 9 minus 6.
Which equals 9t minus 6. Some of you might recognize that that is the same, right and left. You might already be done. You might already say, I don't have to do another thing, Mrs. Myers. I know that no matter what number I put in for t, I will have the same thing on the left as on the right. If not, you can keep going by making it variable on one side, equation, or a number on the other. But you might find that when you do that, 0 equals 0. Huh, must be no solution. No. 0 equals 0 is true. 1 equals 1 is true. 2 equals 2 is true. If you had quit right here, recognizing that you had the same thing on the right as you had on the left, and said all, you'd have been fine. But if you continued working it down to here, 0 does equal 0. This is the biggest mistake I have in Algebra 1, is I have kids that get here, or they get here, and they say, well, everything has disappeared. Yes, because you've tried to put everything together. And the result is that you have 0 on the right and on the left. Still resulting in an all real numbers answer. Okay? All real numbers answer. That's the end of example 2. They switch gears a little bit with us and introduce you to a couple of formulas, which you guys are going to see here eventually, but I'm going to show them to you. Anyway, we've got formula for how a rocket, when it's launched, reaches a certain height and then is affected by gravity and dragged back down to crash in the earth, right? You're going to learn about that in example 3. You might have had that in physical science as well. Volume in example 4. So I'm going to go ahead and jump on those really quick. Trying to see if I have additional samples. I might have to just use theirs and talk through it. All right. Oh, well. Yeah, I don't have another sample, guys. So anyways, we're going to go through theirs. I'm flipping, and I'm going on to sample or example 3. This is out of the book. I know. First, if you read the paragraph above, it says the formula H equals negative 16t squared plus vt gives h, which is height, in feet, this is important, in feet of a launched object t, which stands for seconds, after launch with a given, I know you're like, copy this, v, velocity, at the start. So a couple things. Velocity is similar to us explaining speed. Okay, it is slightly different in the science world, but think speed when you think of velocity. Okay, so this formula right here is the one if you are learning utilizing feet. There is a different formula if you are learning utilizing metric system. So whenever you have a metric system sample, it's slightly different, but they will give you that other formula. I don't think that's even in this lesson, actually. But here we go. Example 3 says, a model rocket launched with an initial velocity of v. Sounds like that's my unknown. And it gets to a specific height, h, of 40 feet after 2.5 seconds. That sounds like time to me. find V. All right, utilizing the height and the time data, we are simply going to plug in and solve for V. Solving for V is going to be what we're going to do today. So height, I have height, 40 feet, right? I used height right there. 40 feet is equivalent to negative 16 multiplied by whatever t is squared. So somebody want to take 2.5 and square it and give me the number?
6.25.
Did y'all agree 6.25?
Yeah.
Yep. So I squared this because this is t squared. Remember, the exponent only affects the preceding item unless the items are in parentheses and separated. Added to velocity multiplied by time, which we still have, right? 2.5. Okay? So we've utilized time here by squaring it and here by it being standalone. Negative 16 times 6.25. Did y'all come up with negative 100? Added to 2.5v. You always want your coefficient to precede your variable. That should be an addition symbol. From this point, you guys can solve this. We're going to add 100. 140 is equivalent to 2.5v. How can I solve for v, folks? Divide out 2.5 because I don't want to know what 2.5 v's are. I just want to know what 1 v is. 56. And I don't know if you noticed, this is feet and this is second. Velocity is feet per second. Just like when we talk about driving, we say miles per hour. Okay, velocity is feet per second. So as long as you plug in the data where it goes, and especially for this one, only square time, don't square the product of 16 negative and time. If you do, you're going to come up with something ragingly weird. Volume. I have a volume sample. Sometimes they just miss some stuff in my doubles, and I don't know why. Volume. Okay. All right, there's sketch. Again, theirs, but we're going to talk through it as we go. Please work with me. I know you feel like you're just copying, but please talk through or work through this with me. If you know something, feel free to interject. The volume of a pyramid with a height of h, so I'm going to give you a square-based pyramid with my fantastic art skills. Still haven't improved. Ugh. And the height, oh my word, height is top to bottom through the center. Okay, so that would mean if you're standing in the center of the pyramid, wherever you are, your feet to the top of the point, that's the height. It's not the leaning, which is called slant height. So height is top to bottom. The square, this is a square, so the sides have a base, and each side is the same. Square base, so this applies to square base. The formula is 1/3 s squared h. Okay? The formula for volume of a square-based pyramid, 1/3 s squared h. All right? The one in the book, you get some data. No, you don't. They want you to translate it, don't you? Okay, this one wants you to solve for h. Whoa. Solve for h, which means we need to get h by itself. We need to get h by itself. Their steps involve first getting rid of this coefficient. So I'm going to build myself some space. V equals 1/3 multiplied by S squared multiplied by H. There's actually another way of doing this, but I'm going to show it to you their way. So whenever you have items being multiplied, we divide out whatever we want. Well, since this is a fraction, I'm going to multiply everything by 3. Okay? I'm going to take this and multiply it by 3. Because what that's going to do is it's going to allow me to cancel out my 1/3. Remember, a number times its reciprocal is 1. So I now have 3v being equivalent to s squared h. Remember, I'm solving for h. The product of s squared and h. If I divide out s squared, I now have s squared divided by s squared is 1, leaving me 1h, which is equal to 3v divided by s squared. The reason they're showing you this is throughout this book there's going to be times where you're going to have to manipulate an equation to give them what they want. Like in this case, I solved nothing. I don't have any height, I don't have any sides, but I do know that this formula translated solving for h is this. Okay? Now up here, you could have divided by 1/3 s squared, but since we don't divide by a fraction, you would multiply by 3 and divide by s squared, which is exactly what we did here and here. Okay, so if you're thinking, can I do that all in one step by multiply by 3 and divide by s squared? Yes, you can. Okay, if you think that way and if you see it, that is completely fine.